Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Tomb Raider, starring Alicia Vikander, Dominic West, Walton Goggins, Daniel Wu, and Kristen Scott Thomas, and directed by Roar Uthog, or as I like to call him, Roar. Now before I get into this movie, I have to say one thing. The people's problems with Lara Croft in this casting choice was, one, Alicia Vikander doesn't have the... Please don't make me say it. It's a little too pervertedness, is number one. And number two, she's not going to wear the short shorts in this movie, so I will forgive her for that. So, let's get into this movie. We get the movie started with Alicia Vikander's Lara Croft getting beat up in a UFC kind of gym. And I thought, that's a first for Lara Croft. But hey, what can I do but accept the movie for what it is? A new version of Lara Croft. I do like how she lives a poor life of losing her membership at the gym, plus delivering food to even the bicycle chase, where some biker dudes try to catch up to Lara with paint, with a fox on her tail just to catch it. So, well, a foxtail, let me rephrase that. So she can win some money, and I enjoyed those sequences. I thought it was a lot of fun. We get introduced to Anna Miller, played by Kristen Scott Thomas, who After Darkest Hour I really like in this movie. And I think she's a good presence in a video game movie. She tries to get Lara to sign for her to be the owner of her own company called Croft something. I forgot what it was. But is still undecided and finds a puzzle box her father, Lord Richard Croft, played by Dominic West, kept for all these years, which was 7 years ago, and leaves a note for Lara. Lara finds a key to find her final destination, where she puts the key in the R for Richard, and she finds her father's secret hidden hiding place, and Richard tries to tell Lara to burn the room, and she doesn't, but instead goes to Hong Kong and to find a man named Lu Ren, played by Daniel Wu. But before she goes there, she goes to a pawn shop, and the negotiator, played by Nick Frost, is who I don't really care for in the movie, and his wife, and gets almost mugged to a chase of the muggers and almost gets killed until Lu Ren is found by Lara and is drunk out of his mind. That chase sequence was fun, but a little frustrating in my opinion. So Lara goes to the middle of the devil's seat and tries to find both hers and Lu Ren's father, and it will lead to a storm with some terrible look at CGI where Lara jumps out of the sinking ship and starts fighting the enemy called Trinity. We get introduced to Walton Goggins as Matthias Vogel or something like that. Forgive me if I said the name wrong. The movie's villain, and he plays such a good villain here, kind of like in Django Unchained, except the difference is here he's the main villain, whereas in Django he's a side villain, but he pulls Slimy off really well. He ties up Lara to work like he does to Lu Ren until she escapes and runs from one dangerous stunt to the next, like going to almost die in a waterfall, to a wing on a plane, and inside of a plane. And I'm needing a breath after all that, because all that was way too frickin' intense for me. Lara finds a caveman who it turns out to be Lord Richard Croft, and she finds out in the distance. And I like how they pull that off. It was pretty cool how Lara finds her father is still alive 7 years later. I was okay with it. Lara starts finding Vogel's men with a bow and arrow, and a bunch of arrows, let me rephrase that. And that's when I thought Alicia Vikander is a badass in this movie, because she's really good with a bow and arrow. But her dad goes to the tomb, and Vogel finds out Richard is alive this whole time. Lara almost kills Vogel until she volunteers to open the tomb. And as soon as the tomb opens and they go inside the tomb with some guns and lights, and I knew some of the Vogel's guards are gone from the moment they go inside. They aren't gonna. They're not gonna be saved. The guns aren't gonna save them. For example, one guy gets killed by spikes, which I knew that was coming, by the way, from the ground. Meanwhile, the ground tears itself like a dark tomb does, and Laura puts the color puzzle together, which I enjoyed the hell out of that. And they make it to a mummy-looking casket, and poisons and kills some of Vogel's men. And their death was kind of disturbing for a PG-13 rated movie, but it is one of those turn off your brain kind of movies where you'll have a fun time watching the movie. The Lara Croft versus Matthias Vogel fight was good but unfair. I honestly thought a man versus a woman, this fight was always unfair. But that's just me in general. But it was a much better fight than Lara Croft versus Jonathan Rice from The Cradle of Life. And Richard does die and blows up the tomb from getting infected. That was something I thought was going to happen based on the previous two movies and the trailer. So Laura decides to sign for her company and owns it, but lets Anna run the company, and Laura finds out she works for Trinity, and maybe the next villain in the next movie, if there ever will be a sequel to this movie, which I would be up for. If not, no big deal. Nick Frost and his wife are back at the pawn shop with Laura and decides to buy 2 guns. Well, Laura does, and I dig that ending, as there will be a sequel kind of thing. And I do like the song Run for Your Life. It's a really good song and funny the way it sounds, like Run for Your Life. It's just, I enjoy the hell out of that song. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 6.8 out of 10. I like it for a turn off your brain kind of movie and have fun kind of way. And this movie may be the best Tomb Raider yet. I really enjoyed Alicia Vikander as the character. She was badass in this movie. I recommend you see this and have a good time with it. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this entire Tomb Raider retrospective. And until next time, run for your life!